All right, let's talk. A couple of months ago now, I dropped a video about building up your aerobic base. And in that video, I talked about an old school method of measuring your heart rate max using the 220 take your age formula. Now this video actually did very well. In fact, it was my most viewed video yet. And whilst it helped a lot of people and I received a lot of positive feedback, it also got a few people talking as well. Some of that talk, fair call outs. But some of that talk was just keyboard warrior energy. Anyway, I wanted to take ownership and dig a little bit deeper. Because if I am sharing information on this platform about training, it needs to be accurate, up to date, and easy for you guys to use. So the primary aim of this video today is to rectify that flaw in that heart rate max estimation, but also to provide a little bit of feedback for those people who are providing constructive criticism online to people who are putting themselves out there on social platforms to educate other people. Firstly, let's just discuss heart rate max and why it matters. So your heart rate max is the maximum amount of times that your heart can beat within any given minute during maximal physical exertion. Now, this is a cornerstone metric when it comes to prescribing training programs for runners. Whilst there are other methods out there, estimating your heart rate max can help you dial in the intensity that you need for your zone 2 running, tempo running, threshold sessions, and interval training. But it only helps if the number is actually accurate. So here's where I got it wrong. In that previous video, I recommended 220 take your age as a starting point to estimate your heart rate max. It is a very simple and low barrier to entry method. Now, especially when I'm working with clients who don't have access to a heart rate monitor, lab testing, or in-person coaching, just having something to give them some general guidelines to begin with is needed. Even though I did mention a couple of other methods such as VO2max testing or lactate threshold testing, I could have been clearer and used something a bit more accurate like the Tanaka Formula. Whilst this is slightly more accurate than the original 220 take your age, it's still not going to be the gold standard and shouldn't be taken as gospel. Now, one person was quite constructive with how he gave me this feedback. However, this other guy definitely wasn't. Now, rather than just highlight the negatives like this guy did, I wanted to highlight the positives of this video and the people that commented giving me positive feedback. And I also just wanted to highlight that this guy serves as a really good example of someone giving feedback in a positive and constructive way. However, this other guy, not so much. So let's talk about this formula and what's wrong with 220 take your age. To kick it off, basically this formula came from an observation and not actual peer-reviewed research. It wasn't based off a diverse sample size and it has shown huge variability, sometimes off by up to 20 beats per minute. So whilst I would like to look at it as a good general estimate, and whilst that's not always going to be the case, for the person that it is, that's going to shoot them pretty far out of what their running zone should be. So what are some better options that we can use for heart rate max estimation? Now, whilst I mentioned this earlier and it's still not perfect, if we use the Tanaka formula, which is 208, take 0.7 times your age, you're going to have a more accurate estimate than the original formula. Is it perfect? No, but it does narrow the margin for error. Now, if we want to start talking more precision, this is where we start to move away from estimation and start to go into actual testing. So let's begin with lactate threshold testing. Now, a proper lactate threshold test, whether done in a lab setting or in a 30-minute field time trial, gives you a more personal and functional threshold, which is going to be far more useful than a HRmax estimate. Now, not everyone has lab access, but a well-structured time trial is doable for most, and it's going to be way more accurate than guessing. Now, moving along, we can look at VO2max testing. This will give you your true VO2 max, maximum heart rate, and ventilatory thresholds. But again, this can be expensive. Not everyone has access to it. And personally, I would not recommend this for all my clients, especially if they're someone just getting into or a beginner to running. So let's just land on a more accurate solution. One of the guys here made a really valid point. If you do have access to a heart rate monitor, which aren't too expensive, and it's actually going to be a really good investment because you can use that on all your runs in future. To do this test, you'll want to make sure that you're well recovered, your mind's in the right place, you're fueled, and you're warmed up. You can just go out for an all-out run and see where your peak heart rate actually winds up. This is probably going to be the most accessible and one of the truest tests that you can do. Now, I don't always recommend this because what if that client has an injury? What if they are someone that is newer to running? And this puts them at a higher risk of injury due to the fact that they're going to be running in quite a fatigued state. And quite frankly, after working with clients in the gym for years, sometimes clients on their own actually can't push themselves that hard to achieve their maximal intensity, whether it's lifting weights and working to failure in the gym or running to their absolute max when they're out on the road or on a treadmill. Now, to give you some insight into why I actually thought this would be a good video for today, it wasn't only to give yourself a bit of information on heart rate max and other methods that we could use to estimate or test it, but it was also to tame my own ego as well. I'm always looking for feedback online, and I'm here to grow, not only as a content creator, but also as a coach and also as a human being. So whilst I looked at some of these comments and immediately I wanted to fire back, there's a difference between being someone who's trying to educate and empower people and being the guy who's just trying to sound smart online. So I wanted to make an example of that first guy who commented, because I appreciate that sort of feedback that helps me to become a better coach, a better educator, but also to provide better education and content to everyone who views it on this platform as well. And secondly, to the other guy, he did come in a bit hot, but he gave me a good resource to look into, and it has shifted my perspective moving forward. So for anyone out there watching this video now, or any other videos on this platform or on Instagram, on TikTok, if you ever feel the need to comment, focus on adding value. If you disagree with something, that's fine. Just be more constructive. My goal with this channel is to stay open, accountable, and to grow with the people who are tuning in. And for my fellow coaches or anyone out there who's actually not producing content, but has a decent amount of information, start posting it. It's always going to be easy to pick on the man in the arena, but maybe you should consider putting yourself in that arena too if you've got value to truly add. So once again, if you've got feedback for this video today, or if you want to see some more topics covered in future, if you want to learn more about this topic itself, let me know. Until next time, guys, see ya.